Happy Halloween, ghouls and ghosts. This is Reluge, and things are being rough. Again, there's a small, break in my videos. Life is happening again, and stuff is going on, and I am at the point where I'm like, I have to record new Monster Bash videos and then edit and upload. So things are going to be slow. And the next Amnesia episode, I can't find where I put it. I don't know if it vanished in the cyber ether or not. So it's going to be hard to re-record the episode, so I'm just going to move forward. Do my usual skipping a number, and if I find it, I'll upload it. If not, oh well. After the Monster Bash, I think I'm just going to edit what I have, because I still have a lot. I still have the entire series of Arceus to upload, and some of those episodes are corrupted. So I'm gonna just skip ahead over those and, like I said before, just record the battle scenes, but I'll going to do that at a much later date. This is the two exceptions are Slime Rancher 2 because updates, and Pal World because I'm still in the middle of trying to get it so that I can fight the rest of the bosses. And then updates. So, with all that aside, and if you're still here, thank you for listening to me ramble. Go ahead, subscribe. Click on the like button. Join my Discord. Got it? Got it? Okay, awesome. Let's go with today's video. I've got some new viewers. Hi, welcome to the show. This I haven't done in a while. This is my personal stories. I tell stories, real stories that has actually happened either to me or that I've done. I have a mixture of paranormal stories and just cute little antics, like the time that I walked up on the guy dressed as the Grinch. He was getting ready to read stories to children, and I just yelled at him, "No, you're not going to steal my Christmas." If you'd like to know all that had happened with that, I am linking the personal stories a playlist down in the description, so you can check that out. Check out some of the stories that you think would be interesting. But for today, I am telling another spooky, scary, haunted house experience that I've had. Now, I do know what runs through people's minds, because I've been asked this, and I've been not really mocked, but people try to debunk my stories. It's oh, every single house you lived in is haunted. Oh, that's amazing. And very coincidental. That is incorrect. The last house that I talked about, that house wound up getting condemned. And because of the condemnation of that house, I had to go and rent from places. Now, there's a lot of houses that I rented. Pretty much, I was able to rent them for a year, pretty much each. The running gag is oh, I wonder if I can break the record of a year this time. But majority of those houses, I had no paranormal experiences at all. In fact, it got to the point where I forgot that paranormal experiences exist. It lasted like, there was like a good chunk of no paranormal experiences at all whatsoever. There's two exceptions. I was sleeping over at my ex's mother's house one time. We were upstairs, and it's someone else's house. It's a weird feeling. It's like you're not used to it. It's like, I get that. That's what I contributed it to. So, I wake up in the middle of the night. I needed to use the bathroom. It was down the hall. I didn't want to. I had like the weird feeling, so I was just like, yeah, I can't hold it till the morning. I gotta go use the bathroom. I get up. The hallway is impossibly dark. Like, no light would like penetrate this darkness. And yeah, sure, it's night, but the bedroom, I could see the shapes of all the objects around. Hallway, nothing. Sure, you can explain that away. Okay, I'll give you that. So, I go to walk into the hallway. All of a sudden, this guy jumps in front of me and goes, "Ooga booga booga!" And then I wake up. Okay, that was a dream. That was a weird-ass dream. Why did I dream that? I still have to pee. The room and the hallway are still as dark as they were when I dreamt it. And I go to step into the hallway, but I get this feeling that someone is around the corner and they're about to jump out at me. Okay, I got that feeling from the dream. Sure, I'm still creeped out. I go down the hallway, feeling all amongst the walls, finally found the bathroom, turn on the light. The light, instead of like doing the radiant light like it's supposed to, it was more of like a black cardboard cut perfectly in a straight line into the hallway, which is weird. So whatever, do my business, regretfully turn off, or not regretfully, but yeah, whatever, regretfully turn off the light, head back to bed. Okay, so that was just a creepy experience that I got from a dream. So, next morning, I decided to talk to my ex's mother about, like, how weird the hallway was. Not telling her about my dream at all. My ex's mother and her brother, the two people that live in the house, explain that the upstairs hallway always gives them the creeps. Her brother points out that every time he goes upstairs at night, he feels like he has to check all the windows and make sure no one has broken in. And he can't explain it. It was just, he feels like someone has broken in and someone's hiding around the corner. Just like the experience I had. So, I laughed. Like, out loud, like LOL type of laughing, and I explained to him the dream I had, and then I said, so what if you guys are experiencing a serial scarer? He just breaks into the random house, waits for someone to like go to use the bathroom, jumps out, scares them, going booga booga booga, and then runs away. Another time, I don't think this is a paranormal, like, to the place, because, like I said, a lot of the apartments I rented had no paranormal experiences at all. But, there was this one time, my mother was visiting, and she was visually tired. And so we're talking, and suddenly, like, complete non sequitur, had nothing to do with anything that we're talking. My mother suddenly, sleepily says, "Move out of the way while it's coming down the stairs so you don't get crushed." We looked at my mother and we were like, should we walk you home real quick? I think you're tired. And she goes, what? Yeah. Not knowing what she sleepily said. Keep that in mind, because that's important for what's coming up. So we move into a new house. Instead of like an apartment, like half a building or whatnot, it's an actual like full house that we're renting. It was huge. It was beautiful, and the monthly lease was cheap. And so we start moving our stuff in. The place did not have a washer and dryer. No, it did, but the washer and dryer eventually died. So, the landlord said that he was not going to replace it. I just noticed I'm missing a skull. That's sad. Anyway, so we had to go and find a washer and dryer ourselves. So, we're moving it into the basement. The washer we get down just fine, no issues. The dryer slips out of my hand. I'm at the top, my friend Kyle's at the bottom. So it slips out of my hand, and I'm trying to grab it, like panicking, like, oh my god, oh my god. My friend has a hold of it, but it's too heavy, so he's constantly stepping down behind himself, trying to, like, keep it positioned. I'm chasing him, trying to grab a hold of it. So, the washer, my friend Kyle, the dryer. He's able to, like, keep the dryer and the washer be like a good distance. Oh, hi, Velvet. And I'm grabbing. I was actually able to like grab the dryer and stop it, but so between him pushing it and me grabbing it, we stopped it inches before it crushed my friend to death. We're sitting there, we're panicking, and I look at my friend and said, "Oh my god, my mother saw this coming a year ago." We both just stopped there and like, holy shit, you're right. That was just so creepy. So, this house, out of all of the places I've been, this new house, which I am calling the Washington case, was the most active house I have ever been in. It was to the point where I eventually did call a local paranormal investigation team to come in, but issues arise that prevented us from doing that, so it's whatever. I had talked about the experiences here in a little bit, like just like a tidbit. I was more focusing on the shadow that everybody was experiencing in a video that I recorded years ago. So I'm just going to retell everything, at least that I can remember, because there was a lot to this place. Also, this is in 2 parts. Don't worry, I'm explaining everything in this video. So the first part was with my then wife. We had the 2 kids, my friend Kyle, and eventually Kyle's mother moved in. We also conceived our third child in that house. Things started like how it normally is. Like, you're moving into a new house. There are creaks and weird things going on, and it's easily debunked as the house. Oh, my then wife. Oh my God. She wrote on the wall, house is... Hold on, let me get this right. House is haunted. She swapped the A and the U around. And we're like, that's not very convincing at all. You're gonna have to try again. Try better. So... the littlest things started happening, like, Kyle's mother, she had this, room, which was used to be like a little tiny kitchenette for, like, when the upstairs was a separate apartment. And we gave her the small TV to use. It was like a really old, like, box TV. It had built-in, like, VHS player, which you could tell it was that old. So it's like, what I'm about to explain can be passed off as, like, a misfire in the circuitry, maybe even bugs, like literal like physical bugs in the wires, stuff like that. Easy, but it's like I would come home from college, and I would see in the window her TV being on. I was like, oh, she's watching TV. Walk in the house, she's downstairs watching TV with everyone else, and I was like, do you know your TV's on? She grumbles and she's like, oh, it's on again, and it keeps turning on, blah, 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 blah. She goes, turns it off, comes back down. We're sitting there. Someone has to go upstairs. There's a bathroom downstairs, upstairs. Someone uses the bathroom downstairs, someone uses the bathroom upstairs. TV's on again. TV keeps randomly turning on. Paranormal? Electrical misfiring? I'll let you decide on that one. But there's this one time, same room, there was like a little closet in there, and we were using that to store toys and whatnot. Suddenly, one of the remote control cars start spinning, like the wheels. We're like, that's really odd. So we took it, and just for fun, we were like, let's put it on the floor and see where it goes. Put it on the floor. It's just going around in random ways, not hitting the wall, mind you. We're like, oh, this is slightly entertaining. It's got like some radio misfire cross airs, whatever. It's picking up radio signals from somewhere else. It's common. So we're just sitting there watching it, and we're all like, it's not going to stop, is it? And I was wondering, I wonder if there's like some kid that's out in the street trying to play with his RC, but it's not working because he's actually controlling ours somehow. Whatever. So it's like, yeah, we're done with it. Let's just turn it off. Pick it up. It has no batteries. It has no batteries, and it's running around on its own. We turn it off, it's still running. Why? Now, it still could be an electrical misfire, but it needs energy, doesn't it? It needs energy to run, and that's the thing. Another interesting bit of like an electronic that can be passed off as like misfiring and whatnot. For Christmas, my son got this teddy bear. But it wasn't like your usual stuffed animal. It was electronic. And it was the kind that talked to you. Apparently this one was supposed to be for like those kids where like the parents like ignore them or something, so the child can sit and talk to the teddy bear. So he gets that for Christmas from his relatives. And mind you, this, we got it at their house, not ours. So that's like right by the noise. I am sorry. So what happens is the teddy bear starts talking to Anthony. Anthony grows bored of it real quick, so we put it on the table. It stops talking because he stops talking to it. After a while, the teddy bear says, "Hello? Where are you?" Or we're like, "Oh god, it's one of those." So we turn it off, put it aside. "Where are you?" "I would like to talk." "It's off." "Alright, fine. We're going to remove the batteries." Turn it upside down, start unscrewing it. And then it says, "I understand how you feel." Unscrewing intensifies. We unscrew, pull out the batteries, put it in the bag to take home later. We, forget about it. We get home, we start pulling the stuff out. I pull that out, and I was like, do we really need to keep this? "I understand how you feel." Keep in mind, no batteries. I'm just like, nope, chuck. So, now those were the cute instances. Now we get on to the actual, legitimate, bone-chilling events. So, I don't want to say it starts with this, but this is where everybody starts keeping track of what's going on. Because we hear people walking in the hallway, again, creaks, and whatnot. We constantly hear someone going up and down the steps, just normally walking. Whatever, again, creaks, old house, new house, we don't know the noises. However, in the morning, I get these cramps in my legs. It's like, okay, cramps happen. They're Charlie horses. And my wife was a bed hog. And so it's like, we would have a queen size bed. And I would get a single's worth of space on this. To the point where it's sometimes I'm just hanging off the bed in the middle of the night. So, I'm not sleeping right. I don't have my own space, and I don't really feel like pushing her over to get more space, but if I did that anyway, she would just flop back over and take up more room. So it's whatever. I'm laying face down on my stomach, and all of a sudden, I'm half asleep, and I could feel my legs tensing. But the weirdest thing is, I could feel fingers on my calves, just squeezing really hard, and I'm like, is my wife trying to squeeze my legs? To, make it so I cramped? Now, if you're wondering why would I think that, well, I'll just let you ponder on that a bit. So, I was personally baffled. Why did I think this? Why would she be doing this? I'm pretty sure I felt fingers on my calves. So, to see what's going on, I quickly turn around. There's nothing. Except, I could feel malice. You know how you're, walking down, an alley, and these two people just, start walking up on you? You know, it's something's gonna happen. If you don't run, you're getting mugged. That kind of feeling? That's what I felt. Not only that, but it's I could feel this just energy standing at the foot of my bed, and I could feel it just walking away through the door. And I was like, hold up, what's going on? So I get up, go over, open the door. And as I'm opening the door, down the hall, the room that Kyle's mother was pretty much living in, she opens up the door, she looks out and says, "Who's running down the hall?" And I'm like, that confirms it for me. There was an entity in my room. And, oh, sugar. Come on. So I just looked at her and I told her what I just experienced, and she was like, huh, that would explain why I heard running in my room as well. And then closes the door. So now we're keeping track of weird events in the house at this point. Other people are experiencing hearing someone walking in the hallway. Kyle's mother, living right there, does keep hearing someone pacing back and forth. Kyle paces a lot. But he doesn't spend his time upstairs much at all. Now, in the basement, there's this small room. The room was a little odd because the wall that separated the small room from the rest of the basement looked like the front of a house. It had windows with, like, window panes that looked like they were, like, outdoor windows. The door was almost... It was kind of like an outdoor... Like, a front door. I can't explain it. It was almost like the front of a completely different building. So I figured, hey, this must have been like a teenager's room or something like that. You know, it's like dressing up his room to, like, look like it's his own house, you know? I thought that was pretty cool. Walk into the room. When we moved in, there was nothing but a little mirror sitting in the corner. Now, throughout the whole time we lived here, we didn't see anything in the mirror, but the mirror creeped us out. I don't know why. So, we didn't mess with the mirror. We did use the room as, like, storage sometimes. A couple times someone did sleep down there, but all in all, it was more of storage, and we just left the mirror in that corner. Another really weird thing in the basement, there's a wall that was... It looked like it was, like, cracked open, and, like, dust and rocks had poured out from it at one point before we moved in. But there was, like, rocks inside of it that looked like skulls. And it was easily debunked because they were just stones, but the way they were placed looked like skulls. No matter how we rearranged them or put them or did whatever, they still looked like skulls, so we just left it alone. As far as, like, what was going on with that, it was like the foundation that was cracked and whatnot. I'm not explaining this the way it should, so I apologize for that. So, this house was the only house that we really experienced a influx of outside vermin coming in. The easiest to explain, still fucking creepy, was this one time we're sitting in the living room. I look over into the dining room. I kid you not. there was a whole swarm of maggots just crawling across the floor. And we were like, what the hell? Why is there this massive amount of maggots in the room? So we grabbed a vacuum, start vacuuming them up. They're still coming. This is the most maggots I have ever seen in my life. And keep in mind, like I said, the house that, the previous house that I talked about was condemned. It was condemned because of situations I don't want to explain here. But it was rightfully condemned. And this amount of maggots was more maggots than I've seen in that condemned house in its entire lifetime. So, we're vacuuming it up, we're trying to get rid of it, then we go into the kitchen to find the source. We found the source. It was garbage. There was raw meat that was put into the garbage, not taken care of, in the middle of summer. That's where it came from. Okay. We took care of the garbage. We got rid of all the maggots and they stopped. Awesome. But of course, some slipped through the boards, fell into the basement, grew into flies, mass, like, fly death. Like, we're going down to the basement and there's just flies coating the basement floor dead. And we're all like, what the hell happened here? I was a little concerned, like, there's like a little gas leak or something, and it just killed all the flies all at once. There was, like, no gas leak, nothing of that sort. But then I remembered, oh wait, the maggots! They're probably the ones that escaped, and they, like, fell into the basement, and grew up in there, and then all just died. At once. So yeah, okay. So yeah, I'm admitting that, yes, stuff was messy. This house, though, was not condemnable. Keep that in mind. We learned our lesson. We kept trying to keep the place clean. Hence why we tracked down where the maggots were coming from. Took care of the situation. There you go. Bats also got into the house. I'm not claiming any of this is paranormal. It's creepy. And I am leaving the door slightly open for the chance that it was paranormal. But again, with the bats, we kind of figured out where it was coming from, because at this point I had a pet scorpion. Next to his tank, we had crickets. Crickets are noisy. Bats, their hearing is really good. They could hear the crickets inside my house. So they found a way in, which was probably through like the attic or the crawl space or whatever. And they swarmed the house. So every now and then we would just have a random bat flying around in the room. We get it outside, whatever. Funniest part of this, though, there was this one time that there was a huge bat, like, the wing span was, like, the biggest I've ever seen. It was kind of insane. So we just opened up the front door and hid in a different room. The way we knew that it finally left the house, we heard a guy outside going, "God damn, that's a huge bat!" We're like, oh, the bat's out. Close the door. If we could just hear for like a good like couple minutes, the two guys like being like, "That bat just flew out of that house. Was that a real bat? Was that? Are we going insane?" We opened the door. That was a real bat. Yes, it was huge. I am sorry to startle you. But the thing that we couldn't explain at all, whatsoever, were the slugs. Slugs kept getting into our kitchen. We were like, where'd this fucking guy come from? Pick him up, open the door, toss him out. A couple minutes later, a different slug is here. Okay, whatever. Pick him up, open the door, throw him out. It's like, where are they coming from? We find their little slug snails or their little slime trails, and yeah, sure. They were coming through the door. Couldn't figure out how. We found another slug currently coming into the house. We didn't see him going through the door, and we're like, how the hell? Open the door to see, like, there shouldn't have been any space. Why am I showing the microphone? I don't know. There shouldn't have been any, like, space. Like, a little bit of space that the slug is, like, slipped through, and we couldn't figure out how. We opened up the door pushed the slug aside. Explain this to me. And they keep coming in. We told the landlord this. We were like, dude, we don't know how the slugs keep getting into the house. So he comes over, inspects the door. Yeah, there's no space for it. While I'm talking to him about it, we look down. There's a goddamn slug. And he's like, I didn't even see any slugs when I came in. I even checked outside before I stepped in to see if there was any holes. There isn't. He opens the door. It pushes the slug. He closes the door, opens it up again. He closes the door, opens up again. And the fucking thing rolls underneath the door frame. So they can get in if they squeeze. Why? Why would slugs try to get in to my house? I cannot figure it out. The rest of the time we spent there was like the walking. Some people have seen like a shadow or a mist going past. Me and my wife started having really rough times. We know that she had depression. I had depression. We tried to help her. She refused. That's as far as I'm going to go into it for this. But the reason I bring that up is because it is known that dark entities tend to feed on negative emotions. And there was a lot of negative emotions going on there. So we figured we need to move. A place across the street opened up. Awesome! So my wife is getting all the details and whatnot while I'm at school. She says the lease was signed? I'm like, I thought we all had to sign it. So I call up and like, hey, my wife reports that she signed the lease, whatnot, and we're ready to move in. Oh yeah, you guys can move in. As long as the maintenance guy's okay with you guys moving stuff in, you can move in right now. Oh, okay, awesome. We moved the stuff in. Now, the neighbors thought it was funny that we were moving our stuff, like, across the street. Next day, apparently it wasn't fine for us to move in. The landlord was pissed off at us, claimed that we stole the key from the downstairs neighbor, and claimed that we changed the locks on him. So we moved all our stuff back. Turns out it was not the lease that she signed. It was the background check that she signed. And me and Kyle had to sign it too. So what was up with that? So anyway. Again, that wasn't paranormal. I bring it up because dark. We were pissed off. It was like the angry energy feeding whatever dark entity was living there. But this was around the time that we found out from the neighbors that the house we're living in was in fact an old funeral home. Would explain the huge huge open space of like the living room and the dining room. Would explain why the bedroom that was downstairs had a huge sliding door and a normal door. And probably would explain the room down in the basement. Which might have been where they like, dressed the corpses and got them ready for burial. Which would explain why that was a really, really creepy room. And one of my friends pointed out later on when I was, like, retelling this story on why those stones looked like skulls. I mean, it wasn't like a paranormal, like, ooh, the stones are now skulls. Ooh, look at that. That was probably the energy that was down in the basement, and it was causing us to see the skulls instead of the stones. So it's like, oh, that makes sense, okay. We still want to move out. We finally find a place, and we start moving the stuff out. I was the last one to leave. I was waiting for my wife's grandmother to arrive. I'm just sitting in the house waiting, and keep in mind this was during the winter, so I could have waited outside, but it was freaking freezing, and I didn't have my coat. So screw that, I was just waiting inside. I left the key where the landlord told us to leave the key, so I'm sitting there and I'm waiting, all of a sudden I hear creaking behind me. And I was like, is that a floorboard creaking? That's weird. So, just to break the monotony, I decide to go and check out what board creaked. So, I'm stepping around on the boards, and I finally find this board. I find the board, I'm like stepping on it, and I'm like, hey, this is the board that creaks. And so I start rocking back and forth, and I'm like, hey, that's the exact sound. It's almost as if someone's like standing here, rocking back and forth, being impatient. When I come to that realization, I can feel these different spirits just coming and just staring at me like, so, are you leaving? So I got out of that fast. Now, you're probably wondering, hey, Reluge, there's still some time left on the video. And you moved out of the house. What's up with that? Like I said earlier, there's two parts to this. So, we moved out into what I'm calling the James case. That's a different video. After we spent a year there, and my divorce from my wife, we had to find a new place. Again, couldn't find a place, but it turns out the Washington house was still empty. He couldn't get it rented out to anybody. And I was like, well, if we keep it the same price as before, we can do you a favor and fill in that space. So you're not like, wasting money or whatnot. And he goes, okay, deal. So, now, Kyle's mother was still there. But, my wife was replaced by Kyle's soon-to-be wife, Ella. I'm not going to go into descriptions, but Ella had a son and a daughter. And at this point, I had equal rights with my wife about the kids. So they were over every other week. Now it's like, oh, this sounds like a huge household. Well, it was still a huge house. So we come in. He decides, like, yeah, we're just going to do the walkthrough. It'll show you guys that the house is still pretty much the same. And we go into the basement. He points out how we stole his washer and dryer. And I was like, no, we had to replace those. But we bring it back, so... And he was like, oh, so it was you guys that replaced it. With your own money? We were like, yeah, we had to go buy used ones. Okay. So... we're walking around, he tells us, like, you guys know that this was, like, a funeral home at one point. We're like, yeah, we found that out. Please don't bring it back up. However, he showed us, that small room And I was like, yeah, I found that interesting. And he's like, yeah, that was probably the design because of the funeral home or a teenager. I don't know. And I was like, yeah, I don't know either. We go in and I was like, oh, I see you removed that creepy mirror. He looks at me and is like, I thought you took that. No, we that was the only thing we left behind because we didn't want that freaking mirror. I didn't remove it, and you guys didn't remove it. And I was like, yeah, and it would be silly if like someone broke in and just stole a random mirror in the basement. Let's get out of this room. I agree. So, we thought that the activity was bad before. Yeah, so Ella's daughter, it was hard to tell if she was legitimately witnessing spirits or if she was just saying that she did. It was really hard to tell. She brought up about this native that she found in the basement. And he had a bunch of like different spiritual like animals. But it kept being different. Like there was like an eagle, there was a coyote. I can't remember the other two that he had. But we figured it was like the same pretty much spirit guide. Just changing forms. And we figured it was probably changing forms based on what she needed. Because it seemed like this native was like helping her. It almost seemed like he was supposed to be her spirit guide. And Ella was all jealous. She's like, oh, she gets a spirit guide when she needs help, but not me. It was funny. However, she quickly turned that into a dark entity that was trying to kill her. So, it's like, oh, the spirit guide, it was like calm and whatnot, and that's not cool enough. Let's just change the whole story into a killer dark entity. However, there was a reoccurring shadow that kept showing up. And I had noticed that it was almost as tall as me. Now, if you've seen some of the other things, I had mentioned that, like, the very first, like, real, actual, 100%, I'm pretty sure was a paranormal event, was when I saw a little shadow kid crawling up into my top bunk that was, like, all janky movements. And now, as an adult, I'm witnessing an adult-sized shadow that came up to around in the middle of my forehead. And I did skip ahead a little bit with my previous personal stories. There was this, the Axtell case, where I mentioned my brother saw a shadow figure that went up to my forehead. And whenever someone mentions they saw the shadow, I was like, alright, on me, how tall is it? And they always go to the middle of my forehead. And I'm like, yep, that's the one I see. So, Ella's daughter saw this, the shadow, and sure enough, she pointed out to the middle of my head, and Kyle was like, oh, yep, she saw it, because he experienced that back in the James case. So, Ella's son, he was sleeping. Dan and Anthony was in the same room. They were bunking out. Now, keep in mind, Ella's children are much older than my children were. So, Ella's son was laying down on the floor trying to sleep. All of a sudden, he gets slapped in the face. He thinks Dan did it. So he tries to confront Dan, but Dan's asleep. Like, dead asleep. Like, he couldn't wake him up. So he comes down and complains. He's like, oh, Dan slapped me in my sleep, and he's, like, feigning that he's asleep. I go up. Dan's actually asleep. You can hear... I'm like, he's asleep. Just go to bed. Come down and I'm like, so, your son just experienced a paranormal event and refuses to, not refuses, but he's like, he doesn't believe that it was a paranormal event. And she's like, yep, that's my son. He experiences anything paranormal and just assumes that it's not. Which is a good way to live, in my opinion. Being ignorant is a good way to do it. Especially if it's like a really evil and dark entity, just ignore it. It's looking for responses and whatnot, for the most part. From what I can tell, I don't know. Go ahead and argue with me in the comment section down below. Anyway, so because of like the different space, like the rooms being filled, whatnot. One point I had to sleep in the living room. That was fine. The couch was comfy. I'm laying on the couch, and I have a clear view of the stairs. And I'm just laying there, and Ella's kids have a tendency of sleepwalking. I can see someone walking down the steps, and they stop halfway, where it's like pretty much at the step where they would be able to see into the living room. I'm assuming they stopped because they saw me, and I was like, okay, you can come down and use the bathroom. I'm not going to complain. And then whoever was there turns to the wall and climbs up it. I'm all like, nope, didn't see that. Going to sleep. This was also around the time that I started to get into paranormal investigation shows. The first one I discovered was Paranormal State. That's still to come. But one thing that kept happening, there was, the whole, like, number theory where there's, like, this particular number that for some reason would just haunt you or follow you. Ever since my friend JJ brought up about 311. The 11th number is a K. 3 of them. Do I need to say more? But ever since he brought that up and brought up the fact that that number haunts him, it haunted me too. It's like, randomly I would see like 311 like in the time. Like I would open up a big random book to like see how, like, read passages to see if it would be like an interesting book, and I would turn to like page 311. That kind of stuff. So, the reason why I bring this up, because in this house, the second time around, almost everybody was awakening at 3 o'clock 11. Like 3:11 at night. And it was always at night. Everybody would wake up. So it got to the point where it's like, okay, I can't fall back asleep. I'm just going to go downstairs and chill. Turns out Kyle's down there. And we're watching Paranormal State. Or was it? Oh, Ghost Adventures at this point. No, it was Paranormal State. Ghost Adventures came later. So I believe it was the episode where they were investigating a house that was on the, yeah, it was, because it was the episode, they're at the house that was on the, that was like one of the houses on the Underground Railroad. And allegedly there was a spot in the basement that had been closed up and caved in where there was a room that they used to hide the escaping slaves. So, we're sitting there, we're watching it, and all of a sudden I was like, what if there is a reason why we're waking up at 3:11? What if one of the people that came through the funeral home was killed by the KKK? And the case is unsolved. So we started investigating. Sadly, we could not find it. We couldn't find anything that would, like, lead to that theory. So we had to drop it, but we kept waking up 3:11. It was weird. I still think something was trying to tell us something, because one of the times that I woke up, there was like, it was like I had a foggy dream, and this person's face just kept trying to, like, press itself through the fog, but I could never fully see who it was. So I think someone was trying to talk to me, trying to get my attention, but for some reason I just couldn't. Go ahead and let me know your theories on that in the comment section below. I will read them and I will interact with you guys. And also keep comments decent in the comment section down below. So far, you guys have done that, and you all have been respectful, and I thank you for that. So, there isn't that many more cases. I know both Kyle and Ella had their own experiences. I can't talk to them unless I use the Ouija board. So, there was this one time that this was like the first time I saw something physically move. And I walk into the living room. Everybody's sitting there. On the edge of the couch was Ella's daughter. She was sitting there. She had like hair down to here. And I look over to them, and I was going to say something when I saw her hair just get brushed back. Like as if someone had just walked up and just ran their fingers across her hair. And I watched this happen, and I was like, oh, that's weird. There was like no wind, no nothing. It didn't, like, okay, when I walked by, I had blown her hair. I was a good distance away from her. I was more than an arm's length away from her. And it didn't go the way I was walking. It went the opposite way. There was no fans running. Also, I didn't imagine it because she felt it. She turned to me and said, "Chris, what the hell are you doing?" I'm like, I didn't touch you. Kyle across, like, on the other side of the room is like, yeah, I totally watched that happen too. So it's like, 2 people witnessed it, 1 person felt it. I can't debunk it. Something brushed the side of her face. And she felt creeped out by it. I know there was a lot of other stuff that we've witnessed. But it was like a whole bunch of small things. Like, feeling touched, hearing our names being called when no one was calling for us or in the house at all. Seeing shadows walking around. Hearing voices, which could have been from outside. I mean, we were on the corner of a street. And there was this one time. The build-up is important, mind you. So, in fact, this was when it was like, I think it was like during the first week of moving in. We were newly moved back in. Kyle's sister was coming over to visit. She was taking the bus. They had me go to the bus stop to pick her up. At this point, I had already been jumped once. That's also in a personal story. So, it was getting dark, the dusk was setting. I didn't want to go outside alone. But it's like, oh yeah, I'm the only one that can at the moment. You guys are busy doing shit. I got it. So I went to the bus stop, waited for her. Kyle's sister arrives. We're walking home. To make a long story short, because I'm pretty sure I also explained this in the personal story. These group of kids, we assumed it was a gang, jumps us. Well, jumped me because they left Kyle's sister alone. So, I get pretty badly beaten up. The side of my face really got the, just, like, the brunt of it. I go home, take me to the hospital to, like, see, like, anything's broken. I got, like, a chip on my cheek. And that was pretty much it. I could barely eat solid food for, like, a couple days. But that night, we had me situated in that creepy small room in the basement for like a couple weeks while we were getting everything like arranged and sorted and figured out. So I went to sleep. I found a way to like lay that wasn't like putting pressure on the immense pain inside my face. And then I had a dream. It was an out-of-body experience. Like, I could see myself laying there sleeping. It was as if I was like a little fly sitting on the ceiling looking down at me. So, suddenly, the door opens. And these three shadow people run in and just start kicking the shit out of me. And while that's happening, I can feel the pain. I start slowly waking up, and I could feel people kicking me in my sides, in my legs, and like on the side of my face. I'm waking up, and I'm just waking up. By the time I'm like fully waking up, it stops. Oh, okay, that was a dream. I just got jumped. It was my brain being like, holy shit, I'm being attacked. My side actually turned out bruised. Okay, could have been from being jumped. Okay, the door was still open. It was open to the part where I saw it open in my dream. I think I legitimately watched myself get beaten by 3 shadow figures. Is it because I got beaten? Probably. Is it because I was sleeping in the room that we suspect got people had dressed up dead bodies? Probably. Was it just in my head? I mean, it could have been. But I'm pretty sure I witnessed myself getting beaten by 3 shadow people. So, those are all the major events that I can... No, there's one more. So, it's pretty much bedtime. We're getting everybody ready for bed. All the kids are there. Ella's kids and my kids. Dan tends to eat his food slowly. He doesn't like meat, apparently. So we were trying to get him to finish his food while I was tucking everybody into bed, and I was laying like down the rules about like proper bed etiquette. Don't bother each other. Don't like talk to each other all night. It's bedtime. It's sleep time. If you have to go to the bathroom, go use the upstairs one. If someone's already in there, just go use the bottom one. Stuff like that. And while I'm sitting up there explaining, Dan's downstairs in the living room. He's sitting on the couch, and he's trying to finish eating. All of a sudden, I hear the biggest ruckus ever. Seriously sounded like the house falling. Turns out it was. I go to run downstairs, I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Kyle's down there, he's like, don't panic, everything's okay, don't panic. I see the drop ceiling that was in the living room had fallen. So of course I panic. It's like, oh my god, my son's down there. And he's like, don't panic, everything's okay, everything is okay. I'm like, how is it okay? The ceiling had fallen. Well, I didn't know what happened. So the couch is practically set in the middle of the room. Reason for this is because the bedroom had that sliding door. It was huge. And Ella was in a wheelchair. So she was sleeping in that room because she could easily wheel herself out through that big open door. Convenient. So we left enough space between the wall and the couch for her to wheel herself through and access the bathroom a lot easier. And the kitchen. So it was in the middle of the room. The drop ceiling starts to fall. Kyle's standing right by Daniel to help him finish eating. It starts to drop above them. So Kyle's initial reaction was to grab Dan. However, he reports that he felt something pushing him back, like on the shoulders, like just pushing him. And he's sitting there trying to get to Daniel and someone's pushing him. The stuff is falling in front of him. He's all like panicking, trying to get to Dan, but something's pushing him back. The more he gets like pushed back, it's like the stuff continues to fall in front of him. The ceiling is still falling, and Kyle gets pushed all the way to the back of the wall. Dan's still sitting on the couch, untouched. None of the ceiling fell on him, and he just looks around and goes, "Whoa." By the time I come downstairs, everything had fallen. Kyle reports to me what happened, so we called my landlord, be like, hey, the ceiling just fell on us. Everyone's okay. No one's even scratched. But this drop ceiling's fallen. The whole room is cluttered now. And there's no ceiling there. I mean, there's like the wall and like usual ceiling. But the usual ceiling was like wood or something like that. It was like slabs. So, called up my wife to be like, hey, the living room ceiling just fell in on us. Everything's fine. Everyone's okay. But it's no longer really safe for the kids to be here this week. You're going to have to come back and pick them up. Grumbling, she did. But as we're cleaning up the pieces, we noticed there was a perfect circle around where Dan was, where not even a speck of dust touched. Explain that to me. No, I mean, go ahead. Explain it to me in the comment section down below. The ceiling starting from the middle, crumbling, perfect circle. Not, like, no dust, nothing. And then Kyle being pushed back by a unseen force. And no one, not him, not Dan, no one got a scratch. Explain that. So, those are the major paranormal experiences that we experienced while living in the house that I dubbed the Washington case. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And of course, and again, be nice. Be respectful. If you think you can explain what happened, go ahead. I might actually agree with you. I'm that kind of person. I still don't feel safe describing where these places are, even though I don't live in that city any longer. Mainly because there's people living in the houses that I used to live in now. I don't want people to go and bug them and whatnot. Leave those people alone. This is my experiences. They have nothing to do with this. And I feel like I have to say that now more than ever because there's people running around doxing people and doing crazy things based on YouTubers. Just don't. Okay, just don't. Don't bug anybody. Just leave the comments in my comment section alone. Like, just mine. Don't bug anybody else. In fact, don't comment on anybody else ever. Only watch my videos for the rest of your life. And until next time, stay spooky.